Hey guys, I'm Mediocre. Welcome back to another video. Today I want to show you some of my Cyber Dragon replays. I like doing this style of video because it kind of cuts all the bull crap out of things. Decklist videos can tend to be hypothetical at times. Also, when people talk about the results they've had with a certain deck, you don't really know exactly how good of an opponent they went up against or how they were able to beat the decks necessarily. So I like doing this just as a quick way to show you guys the competition I was able to go up against with Cyber Dragons, how it wins, how it loses. This first game is pretty interesting. It's an unranked duel, so neither of us are really sweating. It was my first time using Cyber Dragons this season, so I'm a little rusty here. But it's against a very good player. I'm playing against Darket. He was number, I think, 38 on the leaderboards last I checked on Dueling Nexus. So out of all the players who play on Dueling Nexus, which is about 10,000 ranked players I think, he is number 32. So he's obviously a very good player even though he's not using the greatest deck. Looks like a very fun one though. He's playing Dragon Link, Psyframe, Danger, Blue Eyes, Lightsworn. Very good at managing resources and using its graveyard. Looks like I win here, but I actually don't kill him. I give him a few life points left over, so a little bit of a misplay on my part. I'm gonna pay for it too. This is a really good duel. It was really back and forth. One of the best duels I've had in years playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Honestly, it might be my best duel. It was so fun. All three games seem to be pretty back and forth, especially with this first one. He summons Psyframe Omega like 5 times. So one of the things I did in my last turn was I went into the battle phase before I activated Clockwork Knight, which allowed me to resolve it. Otherwise a Hope Harbinger would have just taken it away. He kind of misplays right here. He leaves his Cyber Dragon Hers on the field, which allows me to summon the Mega Fleet. Maybe he thought I wasn't playing it, but of course I'm playing it. Gotta play Mega Fleet, at least one copy of it. And here I'm able to win because I summoned my Cyber Dragon Infinity from the graveyard using Nashter's effect, which is really nice. So on to game 2. This time he knows what I'm playing, he knows what I can do. But I have Forbidden Droplet in hand again, which is really key because I think all 3 of these games I'm going to have it in my hand and you guys can kind of see firsthand how good it is at breaking boards. If you main deck a card at 3 copies in a 40 card deck and you're going second, so you draw 6 cards, you have about a 40% chance of seeing it in your opening hands. So you might say I'm really lucky I got Forbidden Droplet every time, which yes I am technically, but it's actually pretty good odds for me to have it in my opening hand. I will definitely see it almost always in a best of 3. Here I draw out the negates and go for the infinity play. It looks like I'm going to have an easy win condition here, but my opponent has the out. He has Forbidden Droplet, and that card is just so powerful. I main deck it even though Kashtira is around. I main deck it because there are other ways to deal with Arise Heart, and if you do deal with Arise Heart, Forbidden Droplet helps you to get cards in the graveyard. Your Cyber Dragons, it helps you to have your opponent's attack so you can go for the OTK even easier. And of course it negates cards and your opponent can't usually respond to it with anything, so you end up breaking your opponent's board while getting free real estate in your graveyard at the same time. I misplayed here. I didn't summon or use my Core's effect before I summoned my Regulus, so I couldn't really do anything, so unfortunately I'm going to have to pay with a loss with that misplay. On to game 3 though. He elects to go first again. He's also playing some branded cards in here. So yeah, it's a cool deck that he's using for sure. Here's the Omega. But again, I have Forbidden Droplet and I also have Power Bond. You'll see how Power Bond comes in handy quite a bit when you're trying to OTK your opponents. I'm not using this exact deck list anymore. I don't have Galaxy Soldier or Jizakuru in my main deck anymore. I don't even have Infinite Impermanence either, but it's still similar enough to be relevant for conversation of this video. Very similar deck list. I decided to go for Power Bond here to OTK because I don't want to give him another turn because he's very good at grinding games out. So yeah, I get it in 3 against. Okay, so this next replay will be really quick. It'll just be one duel out of my 3 duels with this opponent. I can't remember if this was ranked or unranked. Either way, he was playing a very good deck. He actually had a Cyber Dragon build here with his branded package. Or I should say a Cyber Dragon package with his branded deck. But I wanted to show you this so you can see how I lost. My Power Bond was able to use materials from the graveyard, but because he banished them both with Bestials, he was able to stop me from fusion summoning. And so that's just one thing to note. Go for the Power Bond early if you can. That way your opponents will not be able to get rid of your materials for your fusion summon if they have Bestials. So always be aware of that when you're going against branded. Okay, so this is a ranked match against Buster Blader. It's a pretty cool deck. It allows you to play powerful cards like Poly, Super Poly. Most importantly though, he's gonna try to lock me out of doing anything with any of my monsters. So the way it works is he summons this guy, which turns all my monsters into dragons. And with that card, this fusion monster, he pretty much shuts down anything I can do with my monsters if they're dragons. So pretty gimmicky strategy here, but effective obviously against certain decks. I want to show you this replay, not because it was that hard to beat him, but just to kind of show you that Cyber Dragons doesn't have to lose to a floodgate type strategy. As you'll see, I'm able to out-resource him, even though ideally he's trying to play slow and manage his resources well. I'm still able to keep the ball rolling regardless of his interactions with me. There, my Hers doesn't resolve because of Called by the Grave, which is unfortunate, but doesn't matter because I have Core in the graveyard, so I can just get back my Rampage. Just go crazy. Decided to go for Infinity here. And it was the right call, because my opponent can't really do anything now. Sometimes slow and steady wins with Cyber Dragons because your opponent makes the mistake of clearing your front row, and you can just win. The reason you're able to win if your opponent clears your front row is because your core is now live, as well as your Cyber Dragon. And so it's kind of a misplay. So it's a pro tip, I guess, if you're going up against Cyber Dragons, if you want to know how to beat it, don't kill your opponent's monsters. Resist the temptation to clear their front row. Even though if it seems wrong, don't turn on their core, don't turn on their Cyber Dragon, otherwise they're just going to be able to use, pretty much bring back whatever they want from the graveyard. So he gets the exact same lock again on me. He's able to just lock me out of doing anything with my monsters, but I can negate his monsters and play from there. Forbidden Droplet, very key card in this deck list. And the Cyberload Fusion is as well because it allows me to discard it for Power Bonds. Yeah, Power Bond and Forbidden Droplet are the story of this deck, pretty much. Not because they're super broken on their own, but with Cyber Dragon cards, you're... Okay, so this is a match when I was getting a little higher ranked. I didn't really lose at all. for a while. This is against Labyrinth, very good player, and obviously a very good deck. Probably the best deck this format, other than pure Kashtira. I think pure Kashtira is still the best. But Labyrinth is right there. This first one isn't very interesting. I'm able to win pretty easily. Oops, that's game 3. I'm able to win pretty easily because I have Harpy's Feather Duster in my hands. Here I don't see it. That's okay because I have Power Bond. And you guys know at this point how strong Power Bond can be. So this card right here is really clutch for my opponent. Oops. This card was able to excavate the top card of my opponent's deck as a quick play, or quick effect. And if it's a trap card, they can set it and then activate it the same turn. And what I did here is I kind of got greedy with my Rampage. Even though I cleared my opponent's board and had the OTK, they top decked the out. So they used their boy, Absolute King Blackjack, and they got kind of lucky there. I probably shouldn't have gone for Rampage anyways. I probably just should have left my Infinity on the board as a negate, but I got greedy. Paid for it this time. Sometimes it works out. I don't have a monster to discard with my Ashter, so I was just kind of dead in the water there. On to game 3 though. It's been close. So long as I don't have Harpy's Feather Duster, they make me go first this time, which is okay, because I'm able to get a very good setup. I have big monster on the field, big body, and then I have Overflow and Cyberload Fusion. That is just such a great way to deal with Labyrinth. So you're able to pop cards with Overflow, then you can Fusion Summon Rampage again if you need to, and pop more back row. I don't really need to here. Then I make one of the biggest misplays of my life, which you'll see in just a second. I, Cyberload Fusion before the battle phase, so I can only attack with my Cyber Twin Dragon. They use their Blackjack again, and they get the exact same card. They get the out. So not only did they get lucky again, but I also misplayed because I couldn't attack my Rampage, and I was just dead in the water at that point. If you wait to activate Cyberload Fusion until after you've attacked with your other monsters, that's good because Cyberload Fusion says you can only attack with the monster you fusion summoned for the rest of this turn using Cyberload Fusion. They have the cherry on top here, the Eradicator virus. I was just never able to recover. Labyrinth is a very fast-paced deck. I couldn't keep up with it. After that misplay, of course, I should have won this duel, but I didn't. Very unfortunate. That's it for this replay. And for this next replay, I'm going to show you another, stall strategy, slow strategy, floodgate strategy. This is branded stun. It's a pretty powerful deck when you think about it, and you would think Cyber Dragons would have a bad time dealing with a back row deck and a floodgate deck on top of that, right? Like, it's not just a back row deck, but it's, monsters that have floodgate effects as well. And so you'd think if you can't summon, if you can't, get cards to stay on field, Cyber Dragons would have a hard time winning, right? That's actually not the case if you have the right build, though. I found that Cyber Dragons is incredibly flexible going second. It doesn't really matter what your opponent's strategy is, it just kind of matters more so how your opponent chooses to play against you. What I mean by that is that if your opponent has a sort of summon limit floodgate strategy, it doesn't really matter. It matters more so how they play it. Like if they wait to activate summon limits until after you summoned a couple times, and you're not able to destroy their back row yet, summon limit remembers the summons that you used for the turn, so you kind of shut down. Yeah. So yeah, it just depends on if your opponent is kind of waiting for you to do stuff to react to it, or if they are pulling the trigger early. It just makes it really easy for Cyber Dragons to beat it, regardless of what deck it is. Like this right here, my opponent sets all their cards, they get board wiped. So yeah, that's it for that one. A pretty easy matchup against the Branded Stun deck. On to the next replay. This next replay is against Kashtira, Vanquished Soul. They're playing more of a Vanquished Soul. The Kashtira cards are just there for extra interruptions, extra big bodies in the field, and of course extra attributes in the hand. This is a good player. This is a ranked match. They're able to keep up with Cyber Dragons for the most part. It's a pretty good matchup. It's a pretty fun matchup, honestly. Of course, there can be only one is a very annoying card. And they do go for that. My battery is about to die in my mic. Hopefully it doesn't before this duel. Yeah, Power Bond again. Such a powerful card. Just kills my opponent right away. Game 2. And this time I believe my opponent is going to successfully get There Can Be Only One on the field. Yep, they open it. They get the Kashtira cards they need, they get the Vanquished Soul cards they need to have the triple tactics talent, which doesn't really matter because I don't play any hand traps in this Cyber Dragon build. Ribbon Droplet. Gets the core in the graveyard, core effect. If I had only normal summoned my Hers, I could link it away with Almirage, and then I could summon Regulus on top of the Almirage, and I could do stuff, but I don't do that. I guess it wouldn't matter that much because they have the Fenrir. The Fenrir would have shut down my Regulus. Yep. Unfortunately, they pop off and I don't have much of anything to respond with. Even though I have really good hands, that Tikaboo in the back row is just hard to deal with. If I had Power Bond in my hand, I could easily deal with it, but I don't. So they get game 2, on to game 3. My opponent's going first. And I have a pretty lackluster hand, but I do have the Emergency and the Instant Fusion, which is cool. Do a lot of shenanigans with that. Yeah, I know what the card is in my opponent's back row. That's the Vanquished Soul card that turns a monster face down. So I really want to get rid of that if I can, which is what I try to do when it gets to my turn. I try to dig for the Tikaboo there with Proud of Prosperity, but they don't find it. They go for the Ash instead, which is still pretty good. We get the Cosmic Cyclone, which is clutch. Then I leave Called by the Grave in my hand here, because I need to discard it to search for Power Bond, which ended up being the right play. Because my opponent doesn't have any more interruptions on the field or in their hand, so I'm able to just go for the Rampage Dragon for the dub. Pretty comfortable win here. That's it for this replay. I'm gonna recharge my mic. Alright, my mic is fully charged. And we'll get right into the next replay here. It is Swordsoul. It's a pretty high rank Swordsoul matchup. Swordsoul is a pretty easy matchup for Cyber Dragons because they can only do really 2 things. With most builds anyways. They can hand trap you to death and or put 2 big bodies on the field that either banish cards or just negate cards. So nothing to really worry about for Cyber Dragons. As you can see, I have Power Bond and Forbidden Droplet in my hand, and hers, which means I can chain block my Rampage, but my opponent doesn't even have any back row, so it doesn't matter. In any case, we get the easy OTK on our opponent there. Like I said, Swordsoul is a pretty easy matchup for Cyber Dragons. Called by the Grave, though, in our opponent's hands could be problematic because they could banish our materials from the graveyard, which is super annoying. Here our opponent uses Droll Mockbird, which also sucks, but we're able to resolve Clockwork Knight here. We can't kill our opponent because they banished our Cyber Dragon. Otherwise I could have got my Regulus out. I should have summoned my Regulus sooner. Regardless, though, that was perhaps a misplay on my part, because now I don't have any interruptions for my opponents. And they're able to combo off here with a hand trap to boot. I'll take that back, they're going to summon their hand trap. For Psychic and Punisher. That card's immune to my Forbidden Droplet that I top deck right here, which I forgot. And that was definitely a big misplay. They probably had this one in the bag anyways, though. On to game 3. Looks like they sided in for going second, but I of course made them go first, and I have a really good hand. Doesn't really matter what my opponent had here, they're just going to lose anyways. And there's a Cyber Twin Dragon OTK. Yassine style. Thanks for watching this replay. I'll see you in the... Okay, so the last replay I have for you guys is against Labyrinth. This was an unranked match, but it looks like our opponent is well aware of how to play the deck. So it was a pretty competitive matchup. I apologize for the lack of Kashtira matchups in this video. I did go up against it a few times once I got high ranked. Most of the matches though were pretty uninteresting. My opponent usually had a Rise Heart on the field, and I either drew the out with Book of Moon or Lightning Storm, or I didn't draw the out. And that was basically it, you know. I just lose if I don't draw the out, and I just win if I do. So, very unentertaining matchup. Not much to really see there. But against most of the other decks, Cyber Dragons has some pretty interesting interactions and a variety of ways to kind of approach dismantling the opponent's board. I guess in summary, since this is the last replay, Power Bond is the GOAT of this deck. Also, Forbidden Droplet is extremely powerful as well. Both of those cards do a good job of breaking the opponent's board while getting your Cyber Dragons in the graveyard, which provides free real estate for both the OTK turn and the follow-up turn if you need to grind the game out. I would say the third best card in this deck is Clockwork Knight. That card does a lot of heavy lifting. It can board break. Can't really OTK though, which is unfortunate. But if you have cards like Duality or Power Bond in addition to Clockwork Knight, your OTK potential is there. Its search effect for King Regulus comes up every now and again. Kind of combos well with Forbidden Droplet in that way, which is really cool. If you guys have any questions about any of the cards my opponent used in any of these replays, just leave it in the comments. I'll try to leave chapters in this video so you can see and make it a little easier to ask the questions about what card my opponent's using. I'll try to do my best to clarify that for you all. Yeah, I hope you guys learned something, had some fun, and my deck list video for this Cyber Dragon deck will be coming out very soon. So that's it for this one, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, duel on.